Hi, my name is Richard Capone. I'm a CEO and co-founder of Let's Go Learn. And today I'm going to talk to you about how vocabulary affects reading comprehension and educational testing. Okay, so this is very interesting. So first of all, I think we have to think about reading and understanding how does reading comprehension work, right? So we use a lot of different skills in order to comprehend what we're reading. We use decoding skills, obviously phonics, some sight word memorization of irregular words. We have vocabulary. We have to understand what words mean. Then we have comprehension strategies, meaning we have to be able to understand complex ideas, inferencing, main idea, fact from fiction. And then, of course, there's grammar, right? We have to be able to understand the text, future tense, past tense, different stuff like that. So all that, and I sort of put this into a building blocks because all of that together, these skills and these abilities below, are used together to do reading comprehension. All right. So, and I want to use myself as an example here. So let's look at myself in terms of my ability to comprehend French. I actually took a lot of French. I took some French in high school and college. But today, I haven't really used it. So French is very regular. So right here, I'm saying it's very phonetically regular. So I actually could decode pretty well. I could read things out loud. And if I was to read something from a French text, it would sound okay. But my vocabulary is very low. I'm not practicing it. I always had a small vocabulary. I'm not a native speaker. So my vocabulary is low. So we see there's a gap here. That's why it's only purple at the bottom. Now, my comprehension strategies ability is probably pretty good because I can read English very well. I understand complicated texts. I understand prepositions. I have good comprehension strategy skills. And so that's, I would say, in a sense, is high. Now, in terms of grammar, French is more complicated. Well, it's complicated. There's a lot of irregular conjugations. There's future tense, conditional tenses. I don't know all of those. So I would argue that my grammar is probably so-so, and so I'm saying that I'm only going to have half skills. So what happens is when I have a weakness in here, my reading comprehension is very low. Notice the green, it's half of what it should be, probably even lower. But as a result of not having these skills, not having these foundational skills, my reading comprehension is low, right? Now, this is very similar to what happens with somebody who has low vocabulary. So it could be a low ELL student, English language learner, or it could be just a student, even somebody who's not from an affluent background. It turns out that lower socioeconomic status often equates to having lower academic vocabulary. So they're very similar. So in a sense, even in English, if you look at it, lower vocabulary is going to hurt comprehension ability. So let me now tie this into something else. Students with low vocabulary will likely test low on state tests that use regular text. Because when you take the state test, you get fifth grade passages. Fifth grade passages have fifth grade vocabulary embedded in them. So you need both in order to comprehend the test. The man spoke eloquently. He was talking in front of the audience. And then the question is, did the audience think he spoke well? Well, you have to know what the word eloquent means, right? So that's what's very, very common. SAT is like that too. Of course, that's a different type of test. But state tests, normal passages, have high vocabulary that goes hand in hand with the sentence complexity, okay? Students with low vocabulary will likely test low on a lexile assessment because a lexile is purely a readability that's reflected on normal text. And most normal text, again, has high, as it goes up, it's going to have higher vocabulary as well as sentence complexity as the lexile goes up. Students may be put into reading intervention inaccurately. If somebody is giving a student a reading test and they score low, and that reading text is a lexile score or a benchmark score or a state score, they're going to say, oh, the student tested low in this reading test, so therefore let's put him into reading intervention. I've seen this happen. Let me give you a funny example. This is like a long time ago, 10 years ago. I got a call. I was working the phones, customer service, and I had a call from a school in Canada, and they said, we have a bunch of students, and we don't understand why. They tested very low on the SRI Lexile assessment with the Scholastics test, and they tested very high in DORA. We don't understand why. They said they were testing like second or third grade Lexile like 400 or 300. And on our test, they had like 8th grade score in comprehension. And so I said, can I take a look at your count? I looked at it. The students all had Chinese names. And I said, who are these students? You're in Canada. And they said, oh, this is an exchange program. Parents send their kids from Hong Kong to Canada. It turns out it was a very affluent program. The kids all coming were from well-to-do families who could afford to send their kids overseas for summer. They all studied English many years. And so they actually had really good comprehension skills, comprehension strategy skills, but their vocabulary was low. They didn't have practice. So on the Lexile test, or standard readability, it was showing them as being very low. On our assessment, on DORA, they had high comprehension scores, but when we looked at the scores, when we broke it out, they were low in vocabulary. So in our assessment, DORA, our passages are written without high vocabulary. So we adjust for it. And the reason why we do that is because we're a multiple measured assessment. Comprehension and vocabulary are separated. Now, this is very unusual. Most assessments do not do this. We do it because we're a diagnostic assessment. But my giving you this example is just to illustrate what this means, right? So vocabulary is a necessary building block of reading comprehension. You can have students who have great comprehension strategy skills, but low vocabulary, right? And that's very, very common. And with secondary students in urban schools or bigger schools, you see it's very common for the half of the students who are quote unquote struggling in reading, it's really a vocabulary issue. And so that's a very different strategy to boost academic vocabulary than it is to put somebody in a reading intervention. Okay, hopefully this makes sense, and hopefully this gives you a little bit more insight into how vocabulary compares with reading scores and comprehension. All right, thank you so much.